Ni no Kuni 2! I hope I said that right. I know this review might surprise some of my regular viewers, as this is not available on a Nintendo console. Yet. I'm still holding out hope. However, since I finished the game and I have quite a few opinions on it, I decided I was just going to go ahead and review it. This review won't have any gameplay footage. It's all pictures I found off Google, because I didn't think to record it at the time. Sorry, it's the best I could do without going back and replaying and recording the whole thing. This is a sequel to the original game, Ni no Kuni 2, Wrath of the White Witch. I did play that game, but I only played about 8 hours or so before I got bored with it. I ended up finishing this game in a little over 40 hours. The story is about Evan, a child prince whose father was killed by his advisor, Mousiner. And yes, he's a mouse. There's a rivalry between the mice and the cat races. Mousiner takes over the kingdom and tries to kill Evan. And in another world, the president of, I want to say, the world? He's on his way to the city when a missile destroys it. He's pulled away from his reality by who knows what and is transported to Evan's side. The two of them join up and decide to create a new land of peace. I'm glossing over a lot, but that's basically it. My issue with the story is that it's too sappy. People who shouldn't lead the countries that they're in are given second chances for reasons that boil down to, why not? People follow this child king for the most basic reasons. He talks about a place where everyone should live happily ever after, and they just kind of go with him on this. It's not a viable thing to start up a kingdom on. This was a sort of unrealistic goal that a kid would come up with. I was waiting for him to say the street should be lined with candy and every day is Christmas. Roland, the character from our world, should call him out on this insanity, since he's a president and he's led people and nations before. But he just enables him through this whole adventure. Speaking of Roland, man did I have issues with him. At this point, I'd like to remind you that Roland was pulled from another world to come here. You would think there'd be a storyline about trying to figure out why this happened and trying to find a way to get back. Nope. He kind of gives up on it and just decides to stay almost immediately. That's what I like to see from our world leaders, ones who give up immediately. Also, throughout the adventure, he constantly forgets that he's not from this world. He actually says he's been trained in sword fighting as a child, and I was screaming at the TV, "You're not from here! You didn't grow up fighting monsters with your excellent sword fighting techniques." It's like the writers kept forgetting that he isn't from this world. Maybe at some point in his childhood he learned fencing. And then it doesn't equate to having great swordsmanship. The combat was real time when you're in the dungeons, and you would see enemies on the field that you were on in the overworld to fight, and those would jump you into a fight. I don't particularly like real-time fighters, as they turn into a button masher most of the time. This one wasn't that bad. In fact, I found it actually fun, and that surprised me a lot. But it did help that the game is incredibly easy. You could turn up the difficulty level, but the normal mode really should have been just called easy. You're not going to have to grind for levels, as you're going to get new levels often, and the people who aren't fighting also get experience as well, so you don't need to have to worry about leveling them up. There are also creatures named Higgledies that will join you in battle. They do different kinds of attacks and healing moves. Whenever you see a circle show up on the field of battle, you need to go over to it to activate it. This is an open world game. Most of the time you can come and go from places with a couple button presses. There's also a lot of side quests as well. The side quests were not very deep. It's normally just fetch this, kill that. One of the things that I really enjoyed was building my kingdom. You would buy buildings and then add citizens to them, so they could do the activities that the buildings hold. Sometimes it's just farming for food, or maybe it's learning how to make new weapons, or even helping your party become more powerful. As your kingdom becomes more popular, the more money you're going to get. You're going to need to use that money wisely, because you're going to need to pick the right buildings and research at the right time. The one odd thing about this whole kingdom building thing is it's based on time. Researching new topics makes you wait 30 to 60 minutes before it's actually done. Yet new buildings are made instantly. You have to wait for money as well. This is based on the time that you're playing, so don't think you could just turn it off and a bunch of money will be waiting. If you want to farm for money, you're going to need to leave the game running, but it will also only hold a certain amount of money. The amount is based on your current holding capacity, which you can also upgrade. Almost everything is upgradable with the right amount of money and qualifications. This kingdom will be stocked with people that you've convinced to join from other kingdoms. This is one of the side quests that will come up quite often. There are over 100 people that you can have join your kingdom. You don't need to get them all to win, but if you want the biggest kingdom, you're going to need to get pretty much all of them. All of this is pretty much optional. There are points in the story where certain buildings need to be upgraded, but since I was focusing on this a lot, this was never really an issue for me. There is one more part of the game that I've not mentioned, and it's the skirmishes. You walk into people until they're all dead, or you're dead. You can do spells to help your team, and repair buildings to help you out in the battle, but this whole mode was just so boring, and it kind of felt out of place. Ni no Kuni 2 was a very pretty looking game. It had a cel-shaded look, and I liked the open world you had to explore. The story was too simple, and the characters were not well developed. The battles, however, were very exciting, if not too easy. The kingdom building part was way more addicting than I expected, but waiting for things to finish and golds to restock felt like this mode was an old idea that they had for a mobile game. Now, would I recommend this? Yeah, sure. I would rent it if you could from Gamefly. That's what I did. If you don't have that, I would wait for it to go on sale. The end of the game will come quicker than you might expect. I was in the middle of making my level 3 town, and I had a bunch of side quests I was working on, when all of a sudden I was fighting the last boss and beating the game. The first half of the game had a really nice pace to it, but the second half just seemed to rush by. So if you can find this game on sale, I would say it's worth it. But I still recommend renting it if you can.